I think being a sanctuary city really has to do with all the mechanisms that the city puts in place to make sure that everyone that's a resident of New York has the same opportunities to live and thrive in the city. So that has to do with access to education, access to services in a language that you speak, feeling safe on the streets, being able to access the resources that are intended to benefit and protect all New Yorkers. And certainly feeling safe regardless of the country that you're from is a key part of that. A lot of things are changing with the announcements from the new president. Immigration law and the crimes that make you vulnerable to being deported, that hasn't changed. I think one thing that's important to know about immigration law is that it's incredibly harsh. Things that are low-level offenses, really minor convictions for U.S. citizens can bar somebody from ever having a way to stay here, even if they've lived here for a long time, even if they have U.S. citizen relatives. And what we're seeing with the new administration is that in addition to the already really harsh provisions that already existed in immigration law, they have announced new priorities of people that they want to target. The idea is that of the 11 million people that are estimated to be here, in addition to all the 11 million is the people who are undocumented, plus all the people who are here who are permanent residents or otherwise not citizens, who could be deported at any time, no matter how long they've been here, depending on what happens with their case, that they're going to prioritize certain people. But what we've seen with this administration is that they just announced essentially that everybody's a priority by classifying huge categories of people as people with who are eligible to be deported on the basis of having any contact with the criminal justice system, even people who have never even actually been convicted, who are still charged, who are awaiting the resolution of their case, which really flies in the face of everything we understand about how the justice system is supposed to work. One of the things that we are really concerned about is that the president is willing to divert significant resources from other programs and other parts of the government that are intended to improve the quality of life of everyone that lives in this country and to direct it towards immigration enforcement. We're definitely seeing commitments to hire more officers, to build more detention centers at the border, and to direct more resources to enforcement in other parts of the country as well. I think one of the realities is that even with that expanded infrastructure, if they get Congress to pay for it, is that they're depending a lot and have said that they're going to prioritize collaboration with local law enforcement, which means that they're counting on local police, NYPD, their counterparts across the country to do their dirty work for them, which means they're counting on local police to inquire about immigration status and act as immigration agents. There's current law permits them to do that when there's certain agreements made with federal agents. So to do their arrests for them, they're counting on local jails to hold people for them. And I think that that's one of the places where we have a lot of space to really push as New Yorkers to put those limits on contact, meaningful limits on contact between local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and immigration authorities.
We continue to reinforce the values that we have as city by the policies that we've implemented. We support the policies we have in place, which make us a sanctuary city. We're going to try to limit people's interaction with the criminal justice system, therefore limiting their ability to be processed and information given to ICE. We're going to continue to not have our city agents, officials, share information with immigration enforcement or act as immigration enforcers. We've done things in place and we're going to continue to reinforce that. And we're actually right now looking to see if we can expand some of the policies that we've implemented to even go further than what we have in place right now. We do provide, one, the executive orders, which anybody that goes to any city agency will never be asked their immigration status. We do have initiatives that are funded by taxpayer dollars to provide legal representation to those who are in the process of facing deportation proceedings. We obviously have adult literacy programs, etc. But also we have laws in place that anybody that gets stopped and is being held at Rikers, if it's for a low-level nonviolent offense, that information will not be shared with immigration enforcement. And if immigration enforcement tries to get information on someone, they can only do that with a judicial warrant. And if that person is not protected by the law, it doesn't fall into the categories of protection. So it's a little bit complicated, but we've put laws in place, and we're looking to expand the laws in terms of city buildings, city properties, to try to limit ICE's ability to get into those spaces. Those are things that we can do. We can't prevent ICE from coming into the city and walking our streets, or having a presence to intimidate, but we can try to limit their interaction on city properties, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, look, there's going to be times if ICE has somebody's information and comes knocking on somebody's door, and that person lets ICE in, they could be picked up, or even those in that apartment who maybe were not directly the target of that inquiry may also be picked up. There's times when ICE will interact with people, maybe waiting outside of some sort of an office building and get information. They have information on people, and sometimes they will try to get people through other means. But what we're saying is that we're not gonna facilitate them having access to people, and particularly for low-level nonviolent offenses.
I think it's important for immigrant New Yorkers to know, first of all, that this is their city the way it's everybody else's city, and they have a right to be here, and they have a community and a city that is committed to defending them and working alongside them. And with that in mind, I think it's important that people take advantage of the protections that they have here. We have a municipal ID. It's important for people to not carry proof of where they're born, and it's important for people to know that they should think of their immigration status, the country that they're from, the way they think about their PIN number on their debit card. That's not something that they need to be sharing with anybody. They should think of it as confidential information, and it's not something that they should be divulging at schools, when they have contact with local police, and certainly not if they have any contact with someone who they suspect is an immigration agent. Just like anybody else, they have the right to remain silent and to not produce information that's going to be used against them. And so I really encourage people to become involved with a local immigrant rights organization. We have incredible organizations around the city that are doing really amazing work to make the sanctuary city a real thing for as many people as possible. And I really encourage people to defend themselves and their families by knowing what their rights are, but also by being part of an organization that is pushing back and part of a broader movement.